Eli Turner wiped his hands on a greasy rag and stared at the auction notice on his holoscreen. The words glowed brightly, almost taunting him. Abandoned alien garage, lowest bid wins. Eli had been a mechanic for most of his life. He fixed everything from old Earth hover cars to small interstellar drones. Money was always tight and the future looked tighter. But something about this auction caught his attention. The price was ridiculously low. Too low for something that might actually be valuable. He leaned back in his chair, thinking. Most people in the galaxy would have ignored it. Abandoned usually meant worthless, dangerous, or both. But Eli had a knack for finding things other people overlooked. He had a gut feeling that this was more than it seemed. After a long pause, he made a decision. He placed a bid. 2 weeks later, Eli arrived at the coordinates printed on the auction notice. The star system was quiet, almost eerily so. A pale yellow sun hung in the sky of a barren planet, casting long shadows across a deserted city. The garage was at the edge of the city, a massive structure with rusted panels and broken signage. Its doors were dented and vines had started to crawl up the sides. Eli parked his small hoverbike and stepped out. The wind kicked up dust and small pieces of debris. He walked slowly, every step echoing against the empty streets. The garage seemed ordinary, almost sad, but he had learned not to judge too quickly. He reached the main entrance and pushed against the heavy sliding door. It groaned and scraped, but eventually opened. Inside it was dark, dusty, and smelled faintly of oil and burnt circuits. Broken tools were scattered across the floor. Shelves leaned against the walls, some collapsed entirely. At first glance, it looked like the kind of place that should have been demolished decades ago. Eli ran his hand across one of the dusty consoles. Nothing happened, he sighed. Maybe he had made a mistake, but something made him pause. A faint hum, almost like a whisper, came from the back of the garage. Eli frowned. It was soft, almost inaudible, but he could feel it in his chest. Curious, he followed the sound. Behind an old rusted shelf, he noticed a panel on the wall that didn't look like it belonged. It was smooth, almost new, and had strange symbols etched into it. Eli knelt down and pressed a few of the symbols. The panel vibrated slightly. Then slowly it slid open, revealing a hidden corridor. Eli's heart pounded. He had expected an empty, worthless garage. Instead, he found a secret passage. He took a deep breath and stepped inside. The air was cool and smelled faintly metallic. Tiny lights along the walls turned on as he moved, guiding him deeper into the unknown. At the end of the corridor, the passage opened into a massive hangar. Eli's jaw dropped. Hundreds of feet above him, alien spacecraft of all shapes and sizes floated silently. Some were sleek and shiny, almost like they had been built yesterday. Others were massive, armored, and covered in strange symbols. He stepped forward slowly, eyes wide. He had seen a few alien ships before during trade shows and at scrapyards, but nothing like this. The collection must be worth billions. No, trillions. Eli's hands shook as he touched one of the smaller ships. A soft glow spread across its surface, reacting to his touch. The hum he had heard earlier grew louder, almost like the ship was alive. He stumbled back in surprise. For hours, Eli explored the hangar. Every ship was different. Some had engines that seemed to pulse like hearts. Others had cockpit controls that glowed with soft blue light. He ran his fingers over strange alien metals, trying to understand them. There were tools, fuel pods, and even crates labeled in alien languages. Despite the wonder, reality crept back. He had no idea how to operate these ships or how to protect them. If word got out, greedy scavengers or even hostile factions could arrive in hours. This discovery wasn't just valuable, it was dangerous. Eli paused and looked at the largest ship, parked in the center of the hangar. Its hull shimmered in a strange pattern, almost like liquid metal. He felt drawn to it as if it was calling him. The hum became louder, vibrating through his body. He reached out and a panel on the ship slid open. Inside, he saw controls unlike anything he had ever studied. Symbols shifted and rearranged themselves as he touched them. For the first time in his life, Eli felt truly small, and yet incredibly important. This wasn't just a garage anymore. It was a treasure chest, a secret that no human had ever seen before. As night fell over the barren planet, Eli made a plan. He had to secure the garage. He couldn't move all the ships at once, but he could start with small ones. If he could learn how to operate them, maybe he could protect them, maybe even make use of them. He decided to stay in the garage for the night. He set up a small sleeping area near the entrance of the hidden hangar and watched the ships silently. Each one seemed to hum in response to his presence. Eli felt a strange connection, as if they were acknowledging him, testing him. The quiet was broken by a sudden flicker of lights. A small ship near the far wall glowed brightly, and then a holographic map appeared in the air above it. Eli stepped closer, astonished. The map displayed dozens of locations across the galaxy. Planets, space stations, trade hubs, all connected by glowing lines. Eli realized the map was a guide. The ships weren't just vehicles. They were part of a network. They had knowledge, data, perhaps even secrets long forgotten by the galaxy. A sense of awe and fear filled him. He was no longer just a mechanic. He was a guardian, the first human to find something that could change the balance of power across star systems. Suddenly, a sharp noise echoed through the hangar. Eli froze. Footsteps, no, something heavier. He couldn't see anyone, but shadows flickered near the largest ship. He held his breath, heart racing. Whoever or whatever was here might not be friendly. Then softly the hum returned. It seemed to push back the fear, steadying him. The ships were alive in their own way. They were aware. And somehow they trusted him. Eli exhaled slowly and shook his head, smiling despite the tension. Well, he whispered to himself, looks like life just got a lot more interesting. He spent the rest of the night exploring, taking careful notes and touching every ship he could reach. By the time dawn arrived, Eli knew he had made a discovery that would change his life forever. He had bought an abandoned garage, but what he found inside was worth more than he could ever imagine, not just in credits, but in knowledge, power, and opportunity. As the first light of the distant sun touched the metal hulls of the alien ships, Eli felt a new kind of hope. The galaxy was vast, full of mysteries and dangers, and for the first time he felt ready to face them. Little did he know the moment he touched the first ship had sent out a signal across the stars. Others were already noticing the activity in the abandoned system, and they would not be pleased to find a human in control of what they had considered priceless. Eli Turner, the mechanic, had stepped into a story far larger than he could have imagined. The abandoned alien garage was only the beginning. The morning light of the barren planet spilled into the massive hangar, glinting off the alien ships. Eli Turner's eyes darted from one ship to another, each more extraordinary than the last. He could hardly believe what he had found. For a human mechanic, this was beyond a dream. It was a universe-altering discovery. After a quick breakfast of protein paste and recycled water, Eli started exploring the smallest of the ships. He had no manual, no instructions, not even a hint of how any of this technology worked. But Eli was nothing if not curious. He touched the ship's hull, turned its strange knobs, and pressed glowing symbols. To his amazement, the ship responded. Lights shifted, panels opened, and the cockpit controls rearranged themselves into patterns that made sense to him. This is alive, he whispered, running his hands over the controls. The hum that had first greeted him last night grew stronger, almost like a heartbeat. It was as if the ship had recognized him, chosen him. Eli shivered, a mix of fear and awe running through him. Over the next few hours, Eli experimented with the ships. He discovered that each vessel had unique properties. One could change its shape slightly, adapting to the environment outside. Another emitted a low-energy field that could shield it from sensors. Some of the smaller ships responded to thought patterns more than physical input. Eli realized humans had a unique advantage. The ships seemed to respond to creativity and intuition, qualities most aliens didn't value in the same way. As he explored, he took careful notes. He marked the ones that responded to him, the ones that seemed dormant and the ones that pulsed with energy he could feel through the floor. This garage wasn't just a storage space. It was a vault of untapped power, hidden in plain sight. Eli had barely begun to understand what he was holding when a soft beep echoed through the hangar. One of the mid-sized ships, sleek and silver, had its cockpit lights turn on. The control panels floated up as if anticipating his arrival. Eli approached cautiously. As soon as he touched the controls, a holographic interface appeared in the air. Symbols shifted rapidly, forming a map of the star system and surrounding regions. He stepped back in shock. The ship wasn't just a vehicle. It was a navigator, capable of charting the galaxy in ways humans had never imagined. Eli spent the rest of the day testing the ship. He discovered it could hover silently, accelerate faster than any human craft he had ever seen, and even cloak itself for short periods. While he was excited, he was also aware of the danger. Such a collection would not remain secret for long. It wasn't paranoia. By mid-afternoon, small flickers of movement appeared in the sky above the planet. Scanners on some of the ships, which Eli hadn't even realized were active, began to pick up approaching vessels. "They've noticed me," he murmured, heart pounding. Eli watched as tiny dots appeared on the ship's holographic map, moving closer with alarming speed. Alien scavengers or bounty hunters. Whoever they were, they had likely detected the unusual energy signals coming from his new garage. Panic rose, but Eli forced himself to stay calm. He had been a mechanic his whole life. He understood machines and improvisation. And if there was one thing he had learned about humans, it was that under pressure, they could think in ways no one expected. As the first of the intruding ships entered the system, Eli activated the smaller vessel he had been testing. The controls responded instantly. Lights shifted, the engine hummed, and the ship lifted off the floor smoothly. For a moment, Eli simply floated in the cockpit, absorbing the sensation of flight. Then reality hit. The intruders were moving fast. Eli realized the ship's sensors were already tracking them. He pushed a lever and the ship surged forward, faster than he had imagined possible. The alien ships fired a few energy pulses, but the shields on his vessel flickered to life, absorbing the attacks. Eli grinned. He had never flown anything like this, yet the ship seemed to trust him. It reacted to his instincts, dodged in ways he hadn't even planned, and seemed almost alive. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted only minutes. Eli used the ship's abilities creatively, weaving through asteroids and debris. When he returned to the hangar, the intruders had pulled back. Either they were cautious or they underestimated him. Eli didn't care which. He had survived, and the ship had responded to him like a loyal companion. After the encounter, Eli realized that staying in the garage alone would be risky. He needed help, allies he could trust. But who could he call? Most humans would think he was crazy. Most aliens would want the ships for themselves. He remembered a few contacts from his mechanic days, humans who traveled the galaxy, people who had a sense of adventure and a love of machines. He sent careful messages, asking for help discreetly, emphasizing secrecy. As night fell again over the barren planet, Eli explored more of the hangar. He discovered that some of the larger ships had compartments filled with strange devices. One had a storage area with floating tools that rearranged themselves when touched. Another contained pods with what looked like alien drones, dormant but waiting. Eli realized the collection wasn't just valuable, it was alive with potential. It was more than ships. It was a library of technology, energy, and knowledge left behind for reasons he could only guess. Then, as he moved toward the largest ship in the center, something unexpected happened. The hum in the hangar grew louder, almost like it was speaking. Panels on the ship's hull slid open, revealing what looked like a cockpit interface designed specifically for him. Symbols shifted and rearranged themselves. A soft glow spread across the floor. Eli's hands hovered over the controls. He felt a strange connection, as if the ship was communicating with him, not with words, but with energy and intuition. His mind raced. The ship was choosing him, teaching him, inviting him to become more than a mechanic. He stayed at the controls for hours, learning basic functions, understanding the ship's responses. It felt like the ship was alive in a way he could not explain. A living piece of technology that adapted to human creativity. He smiled, exhausted but exhilarated. For the first time in his life, he felt a true partnership with a machine. Not just a tool, but a companion. Eli knew he couldn't keep the hangar secret forever. The intruders would return, probably with reinforcements. He needed to prepare, and he needed allies. For now, though, he allowed himself a moment of wonder. Humans had always been underestimated in the galaxy. They were clever, adaptable, and resourceful. If any species could learn to control these ships, it was humans, and maybe, just maybe, Eli Turner would lead the way. He sat on a crate near the largest ship, watching the hum and glow ripple across the hangar. Each ship pulsed with life, waiting, observing. Eli realized the collection wasn't just valuable in credits, it was valuable in knowledge, in power, in possibility, and he was ready to discover it all. As he drifted off to sleep that night, The glow of the ships bathed the hangar in a soft light. Somewhere, far across the galaxy, sensors picked up the energy spike. Eli's presence had not gone unnoticed. Others would come. Some would want to take the collection by force. Others might try to bargain. But for now, Eli Turner had a secret, one that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. And he was ready. Eli Turner woke before dawn, his mind buzzing with excitement. The hangar was alive with soft hums and glows, each ship reacting subtly to his presence. Today he decided he would leave the planet for the first time. He had studied one of the smaller ships thoroughly and believed he could control it outside the hangar. He suited up, checked the controls one last time, and climbed into the cockpit. The ship's console pulsed almost as if it recognized him. Lights shifted, panels rose, and the engine thrummed with energy that Eli could feel in his chest. He took a deep breath. "Here goes nothing," he whispered, and pressed the launch sequence. The ship lifted off smoothly, rising above the hangar roof. Eli felt the exhilaration of flight, faster and smoother than any human vehicle he had ever piloted. The barren planet stretched below him, a dull yellow and brown expanse. The hangar looked impossibly small from this height. As he guided the ship toward open space, Eli marveled at the controls. They didn't just respond to touch. They responded to thought patterns, hand movements, and instincts. When he tilted his hand to the left, the ship banked gracefully. When he imagined accelerating, it surged forward faster than he could have hoped. Then he activated the cloaking function. The ship shimmered, fading from sight. Eli laughed quietly. "No one will see me coming," he said. The thrill of exploration and the excitement of discovery coursed through him. He was no longer just a mechanic. He was a pilot of alien craft, and the galaxy was his playground. Eli decided to test the ship's combat capabilities. He knew intruders were aware of the hangar's energy signature and could arrive at any moment. Using the holographic interface, he simulated an attack scenario. Laser pulses, energy shields, evasive maneuvers, all executed flawlessly. The ship adapted to each command instantly. It wasn't just a vehicle, it was a partner. Eli realized that human intuition, improvisation, and creativity made him the perfect pilot. Alien designs often relied on strict protocols. Humans could think outside the rules. Hours passed in controlled testing when Eli noticed a flicker on the sensors. A small fleet of alien ships was approaching fast. His pulse quickened. These were likely scavengers from the system, or perhaps a hired force sent to seize the hidden collection. Either way, Eli knew they were dangerous. He activated the ship's defensive systems. Energy shields hummed, the engines surged, and a faint field began to ripple around the ship, reducing sensor visibility. The alien ships fired a barrage of energy pulses, which Eli dodged with instinctive maneuvers, weaving through asteroids and small moon debris. For a moment, panic struck. The aliens outnumbered him, and their weapons were far more advanced than anything humans normally used. But then Eli remembered something. He had one advantage they didn't expect. He could improvise. Using his knowledge of physics, engineering, and spatial awareness, Eli executed moves that no alien pilot had ever attempted. He flew through a narrow asteroid belt, forcing the attackers to slow or risk collisions. He twisted the ship mid-air to reflect energy pulses back at the enemy, using the alien technology against itself. The smaller ships were destroyed or disabled one by one. Eli's heart pounded, but he felt exhilarated. He was not just surviving, he was outsmarting a superior force. Humanity, underestimated across the galaxy, had found a new edge. When the last ship retreated, Eli activated the ship's long-range sensors. He noted the approaching reinforcements, far larger fleets, likely warships sent to claim the collection. He realized that the secret hangar was now a beacon, an unintended signal for anyone who might want the ships. Returning to the hangar, Eli carefully guided the ship back through the planet's atmosphere. The sensors and shields held steady as the craft touched down smoothly. He exhaled deeply, hands shaking slightly from the adrenaline. The hangar doors closed behind him with a hiss, sealing the collection safely for now. He stepped out and took a moment to appreciate what had just happened. One human, flying a single ship, had faced an entire alien fleet and survived. Not by brute strength, but by ingenuity, creativity, and quick thinking. Humans were underestimated in the galaxy, but that was about to change. Over the next few days, Eli tested more ships. Some were too large to maneuver easily. Others were delicate, almost alive, responding only when he approached in a specific way. But with each flight, he gained confidence. Each test showed him that human intuition, combined with alien technology, created a synergy no one else could replicate. Eli's understanding of the ships deepened. He discovered that some could manipulate gravitational fields, allowing for faster-than-light jumps. Others could cloak themselves entirely from sensors or create temporary shields that could withstand extreme energy attacks. He noted everything meticulously, recording the capabilities, limitations, and behaviors of each ship. Despite his success, Eli knew danger was still near. Sensors indicated multiple fleets converging on the system. It wasn't a matter of if they would arrive, it was when. He needed a plan. He began organizing the smaller ships into a defense grid around the hangar. He set up energy barriers, deployed decoy drones, and created sensor traps using alien technology. He also started teaching himself basic combat strategies using simulations from the ship's AI. Eli understood that survival would require both skill and strategy. During one test run, a scout ship slipped through his defenses. Eli tracked it with a combination of human intuition and the ship's adaptive sensors. He executed a daring maneuver, guiding the alien ship into an asteroid, disabling it without destroying the craft completely. He noted its weak points, making plans for future encounters. One evening, as Eli returned to the hangar, he noticed a small alien probe hovering near the entrance. It was scanning the area, likely sent by a larger force to locate the hidden collection. Eli activated one of the larger ships, a sleek craft with adaptive camouflage, and engaged in a silent chase. The probe tried to escape, but Eli outmaneuvered it, forcing it to crash on the barren surface. He recovered the probe and studied its design. The alien technology was sophisticated but predictable in its patterns. Eli realized that human creativity and improvisation allowed him to exploit weaknesses that aliens relied on blindly. For the first time, he smiled with confidence. The hangar wasn't just a secret treasure, it was a fortress waiting to be defended. And Eli Turner, human mechanic, was ready to lead. Late that night, Eli reflected on everything. The ships were alive, powerful, and far beyond human technology. Yet they responded to his touch, his mind, his creativity. Humans had long been underestimated. They were seen as fragile, inefficient, and simple. But now, one human had mastered technology that entire civilizations had left behind. Eli knew the galaxy would never see humanity the same way again. He wasn't just a mechanic. He was a pioneer, a defender, and a strategist. The hangar was no longer a garage. It was a command center, a fortress, and a laboratory for humanity's ingenuity. Somewhere far across the stars, other beings noticed the sudden energy spikes. Intrigued, suspicious, or alarmed, they began preparing. Eli had only scratched the surface of what he could do with the collection. The galaxy was watching, and he was ready. With a determined smile, Eli climbed into one of the ships, lifting off to patrol the area. He would continue learning, continue exploring, and continue defending the hidden treasure. One human had already changed the odds, and he intended to change them further. Eli Turner, mechanic turned pilot, had taken the first step into a much larger world. The galaxy had underestimated humans, and now it would learn. Eli Turner had barely slept in the days since his first flight. The hangar hummed constantly, alive with energy, and every ship seemed to pulse in response to his presence. Each test flight had strengthened his confidence, but he knew he couldn't protect the collection alone. The galaxy was vast, and intruders would not stop coming. He needed allies, trusted humans, and perhaps some sympathetic aliens. The first step was reaching out discreetly. Using secure communication channels, he contacted a few friends from his mechanic days. They were humans who traveled across the stars, skilled in repair, piloting, and improvisation. The first to arrive was Mara Vance, a pilot with quick reflexes and a love for alien technology. She stepped into the hangar and gasped. "I have never seen anything like this," she said, eyes wide. "Where did you find it?" Eli grinned. "Not where, when. And now we need to make sure no one else finds it before we're ready." Over the next few hours, Mara explored the ships and began learning their controls. She had experience with small alien craft before, but nothing prepared her for technology that seemed alive. She quickly realized that the ships responded to humans in ways they never would to other species. It was as if the ships recognized potential, not just skill. More humans arrived over the next few days. Jax Arlen, a former engineer with knowledge of alien machinery, and Lena Kale, a strategist with a reputation for creative thinking under pressure. Together they formed a small but capable team. Eli assigned roles carefully. Mara and Eli would handle the piloting and defense of the hangar. Jax would maintain and repair the ships, while Lena would help plan strategies for potential attacks. Every team member understood the stakes. If the collection fell into the wrong hands, it could shift the balance of power across the galaxy. No sooner had the team settled in than the first signs of a serious threat appeared. Sensors detected multiple fleets moving toward the planet. The intruders were no longer small scavengers. They were well-organized, likely military or corporate forces, each determined to claim the collection. Eli activated the ship's defensive systems. He deployed drones, set up energy barriers, and tested cloaking protocols. Every ship he controlled seemed to respond intuitively, as if anticipating his moves. Human creativity and improvisation were the edge he had over these larger forces. The first wave of enemy ships entered the system just after dusk. They were aggressive and well-coordinated, firing pulses that could destroy entire planets if misused. Eli led the smaller vessels in evasive maneuvers, drawing the intruders into asteroid fields and using natural obstacles to his advantage. Mara followed closely, piloting a ship that adapted to her thought patterns. Together they created unpredictable movements that the alien fleets could not anticipate. For every attack the intruders launched, Eli and his team had a clever counter, often using alien technology against them. Back in the hangar, Jax and Lena monitored the battle. Jax adjusted energy outputs and repaired damaged drones remotely. Lena analyzed patterns in the enemy fleet, predicting maneuvers and suggesting counterattacks. The hangar became a hive of activity, every human playing a role that machines alone could not manage. Eli realized that this was humanity's strength. Alien ships were powerful, but they lacked imagination. Humans could think in ways that technology alone could not predict. One well-placed decision could turn the tide of an entire battle. The enemy fleet pressed harder, sending larger warships and heavier weapons. Eli's heart pounded, but he stayed focused. He guided the ships through narrow asteroid belts, using gravitational pulls to accelerate or redirect energy pulses back at attackers. Every move required precision and creative thinking. Mara, Eli, and a few smaller ships launched surprise strikes, disabling key enemy vessels. Each maneuver relied on human intuition, not brute force. The aliens had advanced technology, but they underestimated the value of unpredictability, and that unpredictability came from humans. Hours passed in intense combat. The team was exhausted, but the hangar remained safe. Eli realized that they couldn't just react. They had to plan for the next wave. Lena suggested creating a layered defense system, decoys, traps, and patrol routes that would make it nearly impossible for attackers to reach the collection. Eli agreed. Over the next day, they deployed decoy ships, modified energy shields, and programmed drones to patrol key points. Every element relied on human ingenuity, turning the hangar into a fortress that even the most experienced alien pilots would struggle to penetrate. While fortifying the hangar, Eli also explored the larger ships. Some of them had capabilities he hadn't fully discovered yet. Temporary cloaking fields, rapid acceleration bursts, and shields that could adapt to energy attacks in real time. With these ships, they could defend against almost any force, but only if they used them creatively. He realized that the collection was not just valuable. It was a lesson in strategy. The ships were alive, yes, but they responded best to humans because humans could think outside the box. No other species in the galaxy could combine technology and creativity the way humans could. Late that night, after a long day of preparation, Eli sat on a crate near the largest ship in the hangar. Mara joined him, sipping recycled water. "You've done something incredible here," she said quietly. "These ships? They're alive, and they're listening to you. I've never seen anything like it." Eli smiled, exhausted but proud. "It's more than that," he said. "We humans, we're underestimated everywhere. But look at this. We can take something alien, something they thought only they could control, and make it work for us. That's power," Mara nodded. "And now we defend it, together." As they spoke, sensors detected a shadow at the edge of the system. Another fleet was approaching, larger and more organized than the last. Eli's stomach tightened. This wasn't just scavengers anymore. It was an attack on humanity itself. He activated the ships, rallying his small team. "Get ready," he said. "They think they can take what's ours. They're about to learn why humans shouldn't be underestimated." The ships lifted off, engines humming and glowing. The hangar's energy field intensified, creating a protective barrier around the collection. Eli felt a rush of excitement and determination. This was more than defense, it was a declaration. Humans could not only survive in this galaxy, but they could thrive, using ingenuity and courage to overcome overwhelming odds. As the alien fleets entered the system, Eli and his team executed a strategy that combined speed, deception, and creativity. Drones and decoys led enemies into traps. Energy pulses reflected off asteroid fields, disabling enemy ships without causing destruction. Eli piloted with precision, anticipating movements and using the ship's adaptive technology in ways no alien could predict. The battle raged for hours. But Eli's strategy worked. The enemy fleet was forced to retreat, leaving the hangar untouched. Humans had not only defended the collection, they had done so in a way that left the attackers wary and cautious. After the battle, Eli returned to the hangar, heart racing but triumphant. He looked at his team, Mara, Jax, Lena, and smiled. "We did it," he said. "We defended something no one thought we could, and we showed them. Humans are not weak." Jax grinned, wiping sweat from his forehead. "You've got a point. They're going to think twice before trying this again." Eli knew it was true. The galaxy had underestimated humans for too long. One mechanic, using intelligence, creativity, and courage, had turned the tide against forces far superior in number and technology. The hangar, once abandoned and forgotten, was now a symbol of human ingenuity, adaptability, and determination. Eli Turner had taken the first step in showing the galaxy that humans were not to be dismissed, and he knew this was only the beginning. Eli Turner stood on the observation deck of the hangar, watching the vastness of space stretch before him. The hidden collection of alien ships shimmered below, alive with soft hums and glowing lights. They were ready, but Eli knew this was only the beginning. Across the system, sensors had picked up a massive fleet approaching. This was no ordinary raid, this was a full-scale assault. His heart raced, but his mind was clear. For days, Eli and his team had prepared every ship, every defense, every trick. The galaxy had underestimated humans for far too long, and now they would see exactly what human ingenuity could do. "Eli," Mara Vance said, standing beside him, "they're coming faster than we thought." She pointed to the holographic display showing hundreds of enemy ships converging on the system. "This is bigger than anything we've faced." Eli nodded. "Good," he said, gripping the railing. "The bigger they are, the more predictable they become. And humans can improvise." He called his team together. Mara, Jax, and Lena joined him in the control room. Each had a role. Mara and Eli would pilot the ships and engage enemies directly. Jax would manage repairs and energy distribution. Lena would analyze enemy patterns and suggest strategies. They were small in number, but their coordination was precise and their creativity unmatched. The first wave of the enemy fleet entered the system. Massive warships, bristling with weapons, fired energy pulses, shaking the very fabric of space around them. Eli launched one of the larger alien ships, its hull glowing with adaptive energy. Mara followed closely, her own ship weaving in complex patterns that no alien fleet had anticipated. Eli activated the hangar's defense grid. Energy shields rippled across the docking bays. Drones patrolled key areas and decoys floated silently, ready to lure attackers into traps. The alien ships fired repeatedly, but Eli's team anticipated their moves, using every advantage human creativity could provide. The battle was chaotic. The enemy fleet advanced in waves, but Eli had prepared for this. Using the smaller ship's agility, he led portions of the fleet into asteroid belts where their large warships struggled to maneuver. Mara and Eli used gravitational fields to redirect energy pulses back at enemy vessels, disabling them without risking damage to the hangar. Jax's hands flew across the control panels, rerouting energy to shields and engines. Lena analyzed enemy patterns, predicting maneuvers and guiding the pilots. Every move was precise, every counter intentional. Humans were not the strongest physically, but their adaptability, quick thinking, and ingenuity gave them an edge no alien technology could match. Hours passed, and the enemy fleet began to falter. Despite their numbers, they could not anticipate the unpredictable strategies of human pilots. One by one, warships were disabled or forced to retreat. Eli marveled at the efficiency of their approach. They were outnumbered 10-1, yet the collection remained safe. Amid the chaos, the largest enemy ship launched a direct assault on the hangar. Its massive energy cannons threatened to breach the shields. Eli took a deep breath and coordinated a daring maneuver. He guided several ships in a synchronized pattern, confusing the enemy sensors. Using adaptive energy pulses, he reflected the attack back at the warship, disabling it instantly. Mara cheered, her voice echoing in the comms. "We did it." "They won't expect that again," Eli smiled, knowing that human creativity had turned the tide. They weren't stronger by numbers or raw firepower, but by thinking differently, adapting faster, and using their environment to their advantage. After hours of relentless combat, the remaining enemy ships began to retreat. Eli watched them withdraw, energy signatures fading into the distance. The hangar remained untouched. The collection of alien ships shimmered softly as if acknowledging their victory. Humans had defended something no other species thought possible. Eli stepped out of his ship, looking around at his team. Mara, Jax, and Lena were exhausted but exhilarated. They had not only survived, they had triumphed. "Look at this," Eli said, gesturing toward the ships. "We didn't just defend them. We proved something important. Humans are underestimated, yes, but that ends today. The galaxy has to take notice." In the following days, Eli's team fortified the hangar further. They deployed additional drones, set up advanced sensor networks, and tested the larger ships for defensive capabilities. The alien ships had proven adaptable and powerful, but they needed human guidance to operate at their full potential. Eli realized that humans were the perfect partners for these machines, creative, unpredictable, and fearless when protecting what mattered. Word began to spread, quietly, across the nearby systems. Scattered reports described a human-led defense against overwhelming odds. A single mechanic and his small team holding off fleets of alien warships. Across the galaxy, whispers of respect and caution started to grow. Humans could no longer be dismissed as weak or insignificant. One evening, Eli sat alone in the hangar, watching the ships glow softly. He reflected on everything that had happened. From the day he bought the abandoned garage, nothing had been ordinary. He had discovered treasure, danger, and the hidden power of humanity itself. The ships were more than valuable. They were a testament to potential, a reminder that humans could rise to challenges no one expected. He smiled, thinking of the future. There were countless other secrets in the galaxy, and humans could explore, protect, and master them. The hangar was only the beginning. One human mechanic had turned an abandoned garage into a fortress, a command center, and a symbol of human ingenuity. As dawn broke over the barren planet, the hangar hummed with energy. Eli climbed into one of the smaller ships flying above the hangar to observe the system. His team followed in formation. They were ready for anything, any fleet, any challenge. Humans had learned to use alien technology in ways no other species could imagine. Somewhere across the stars, other civilizations were taking notice. Sensors and scouts detected the energy signatures and movements of Eli's fleet. For the first time, aliens understood that humans were not simply another species to underestimate. They were clever, adaptable, and unpredictable. Eli looked down at the hangar, at the ships, at the planet that had once seemed so empty and insignificant. "We've only just begun," he said softly. Mara, flying beside him, nodded. Together, they had defended something beyond value. Together, they had shown that humans could face impossible odds and win. It was a small step for humanity, perhaps, but a giant leap in the eyes of the galaxy. The hangar, once abandoned and forgotten, now stood as a beacon of ingenuity and courage. Humanity had arrived, not with brute force or sheer numbers, but with cleverness, teamwork, and creativity. Eli Turner, the mechanic, had done something extraordinary. He had turned a simple purchase into a story the galaxy would never forget. Weeks later, the hangar was no longer just a secret. Humans and sympathetic aliens worked together to maintain it, explore its ships, and study the technology. Eli had become a leader, a symbol of what humanity could achieve when underestimated. Across the galaxy, other species approached humans with respect and caution. Eli smiled as he watched a new generation of pilots train in the hangar. He thought about how it all began. A simple decision to buy an abandoned garage. He realized that humans didn't need to be the strongest or the fastest. They only needed to be clever, adaptable, and fearless. That combination was enough to change the galaxy, and Eli Turner knew that humanity had only begun to show its true potential.